Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, January 22nd. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect fantastic weather in San Antonio today, with partly sunny skies and a high of 76 degrees. Rain chances return over the weekend, but it won't get too chilly. On Thursday, San Antonio officials reported 2,507 new coronavirus infections. Texas researchers found out that men are more likely to contract and die from COVID-19. The new study also found that men were more likely to experience complications from the virus. So remember to wear a mask and keep it on properly. On a far less serious note, it's Friday, which means we'll have the latest entry in our 52 Weeks of Food Truck series. Check out our Taste Teams page for a review of a food truck with a famous namesake. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Like many Republicans, Bob Bruce believes the election was stolen, despite the failure of 50 lawsuits attempting to make that argument. Republican judges who rejected some of those lawsuits, and Republican election officials who certified the results in several battleground states. Quote, Donald Trump's hand has been played, but I would like to see him remain active in national politics, said Bruce at his business, the 44-lane Astros Super Bowl. He continued, I'd like him giving the other side of the story. We won't be getting that from Mitch McConnell. I'm done with that son of a bitch, he said. A small sampling of local Republicans told us this week that they remained ardent supporters of Trump and do not know anyone in their group of friends who thinks the Republican brand has been damaged by the violence at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Head over to expressnews.com to read the full article. In the last 2 years, even as population growth continued to explode in San Antonio, the city ranked second in the nation after adding more than 17,000 people between July 2018 and July 2019. Developers asked for 206 exceptions to the tree ordinance. All were granted. In theory, the city's tree ordinance is designed to protect all heritage trees and 35% of significant trees on a property. Developers who remove more than that must mitigate the loss by paying fees or planting new trees. In our latest investigation, Brian Chasnoff explores why the rules are in place and how local politics can come into play when exceptions get approved. You can check out that full story over on our website. A controversial Texas tax law that's criticized as a giveaway to large companies is set to expire after 2022. But state lawmakers appear poised to renew the program this legislative session. Under Chapter 313, Texas taxpayers will pay the bill for tax breaks worth nearly $1.7 billion in 2021 and 2022 combined to corporations that relocate to or expand in the state. Companies that critics say likely would have done so without the subsidy. Others, however, say the program makes it cheaper to do business in Texas and creates jobs and tax revenue in counties across the state. Without the tax break, supporters of Chapter 313 say companies could go to states that are more generous with public subsidies. We have everything you need to know about Chapter 313 in Texas school districts over at expressnews.com. Greg Popovich did not set out to become the white-haired embodiment of the NBA's social conscience. For much of the first 2 decades he spent on the Spurs bench, Popovich's political views and pet causes were kept semi-private. That changed after Donald Trump was elected in 2016. Popovich's ire had nothing to do with Trump's status as a Republican. Popovich's condemnation had more to do with the Trumpian values that the coach, a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, perceived to be amoral, unjust, and incongruent with America's mission statement. For his fellow coaches, Popovich's willingness to speak up in the heart of a red state made it easier for them to join the chorus of opposition if they felt so compelled. Jeff McDonald has more in his latest article. The presidential inauguration for Joe Biden on Wednesday, scaled down because of pandemic precautions, looked different from past ceremonies. Outgoing President Donald Trump did not attend, departing early for Florida with the First Lady after delivering remarks to supporters. Outgoing Vice President Mike Pence was present, along with many lawmakers and high-profile guests. We have some of the top photos over on our website. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. COVID-19 has claimed the lives of 17 more people in San Antonio, adding to the growing death toll from the latest coronavirus surge. Over the past 2 weeks, 134 people in Bexar County have succumbed to the virus. The San Antonio Housing Authority is walking back one of its largest development plans in history to bulldoze the city's oldest and largest public housing complex and replace it with a mixed-income development. A $40 million windfall in federal funds is allowing the city council to help thousands more families stay in their homes now and still set aside money for affordable housing construction in the future. More than 10 months after CPS Energy temporarily stopped disconnecting customers' electricity and gas for non-payment, the city-owned utility on Thursday said it won't resume the turnoffs anytime soon. Large crowds are gathering each night at San Antonio vaccine sites, hoping to snare any spare dose. University health officials are discouraging people from waiting in the crowd because the risk of catching the disease in big groups is high and there's little chance of reward. Check out the latest episode of our Puro Politics podcast, where Greg Jefferson joined us to discuss why the stakes were so high for Joe Biden's inaugural address. Local developer Weston Urban recently acquired 2 properties between the historic Milam high-rise and the San Antonio Riverwalk as part of its plan to make over Western downtown. 7 Democratic senators are calling for the chamber's ethics panel to investigate U.S. Senator Ted Cruz's objection to Arizona's electoral votes before the Capitol riots, which they say lend credence to the insurrectionists' cause and set the stage for future violence. During a press conference on criminal justice priorities, Texas Governor Greg Abbott steered clear of endorsing bail reforms aimed at reducing the number of people stuck in jail simply because they cannot afford to pay to get out. When it comes to police reform, San Antonio's city staff is working on 2 tracks, writes Gilbert Garcia. You can find his latest column over at expressnews.com. Last summer, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled it illegal to discriminate against someone in the workplace based on sexual orientation or gender identity. The Express News editorial board writes, quote, "As titanic as that ruling was, it didn't go far enough." Sports columnist Mike Finger writes, "In a league in which around 70% of the players are black, only 2 of the 32 teams are led by black head coaches, and only 4 of the 32 have coaches of color. It's an embarrassment for the league, and almost nobody denies this." Check out the full column over on our website. SpaceX has purchased 2 deep-water oil rigs off the Texas Gulf Coast to use as seagoing spaceports for its Starship spacecraft. The commercial space firm, through an entity called Lone Star Mineral Development, bought the platforms from an offshore drilling company. Several media reports say Lone Star Mineral Development bought the rigs, which were headed to the scrapyard, for $3.5 million each, a steal compared to the original production cost of between $330 and $515 million in 2008. Brandon Lingo has more on the logistical and regulatory challenges of sea-based spaceports in his collaboration with Report for America. The best story to come out of December's opening of the Philippine fast food giant Jollibee in San Antonio didn't come from the long line of cars at Jollibee. It came from another Philippine restaurant just down the road. Check out Mike Sutter's latest article for 7 great restaurants for Filipino food in San Antonio, even if you're not Filipino. Paul Steven brings you easy-to-make smoothies that will help you stick to your vegan, keto, paleo, and dairy-free diet resolutions. A new wine bar downtown in Hemisphere called Re-Rooted 210 Urban Winery will open soon with Texas-focused wines on tap. Sommelier and owner Jennifer Beckman will make 7 wines to serve on draft, plus serve food, growlers, and flights. Country music stars Aaron Watson and John Wolfe will play concerts at Whitewater Amphitheater in New Braunfels this spring. Tickets go on sale today. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Friday, January 22nd. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.